Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your favorite show. As always, let's get it on, because this is the show that lights up your Wednesday night. As people like Albert say, we leave your Wednesday night lit.
Sure.
Now, tonight we're going to be talking about discipline. A wise man once said, if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. But a lot has changed of recent, because we are being told that now there are different rods that you can use. You can stop giving your kids money, so I hear. You can send them to the naughty corner, so I hear. And I say so I hear because all these things were never done to me. Mine was simple. Albert said there was a corridor. All you could do was rub your shoulders on the corridor. Anything out of that, you'd get what you deserve. Now, with all this change in discipline, has our society been affected either positively or negatively? I'll leave that to you. But now we're seeing a lot of unrest from our children. Some of our politicians blame it on our upbringing, and some of us are just bad-mannered people, which is a fact. So, gentlemen, first of all, who here was not given chiboko when they were growing up?
That one received many.
You see, when we were growing up, chiboko was the order of that day.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, it might have not been every day, but discipline, it was chiboko.
I think I had more chiboko than I had milk.
You kept being served it on a regular
No,
basis.
like I kept getting into trouble in that if you got in trouble once a day, okay, you could get in trouble twice a day and have one cup of, you could have breakfast and you could bet chiboko twice.
Yeah.
So you find that if you accumulate all the times, you got like more chibokos and you had cups of tea, so really.
But I'll tell you what, the thing is, was it a good thing? Because then at the end of the day, children are children. They will always make mistakes. It's part of growing up, okay? It's part of development. But should we be hard on children? Just, say, look, this is the narrow path, okay? And this is the path you're going to take. If you divert from it, this is what will put you back in line. Chris, spare the rod and spoil the child.
I definitely believe that all children need boundaries. In fact, love for any child needs to have boundaries. Because when you set boundaries, they actually feel safe. When a child doesn't feel, when there are no boundaries, they feel like no one cares.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why you find a child who grows up in maybe a single parent home will most probably get to desire to be in a home where there is a second parent, because a two-parent home has a way in which you can't escape. If you escape your mom, there is your dad. If you escape your dad, there is your mom. Somehow, there are boundaries that are set. So I believe that every child needs to grow up with boundaries, the confines of that, so that they are able to learn life, to learn the rhythms and patterns of life, to learn how to live, how to greet, how to work in society, life skills, politeness, etc., social skills. And so I personally believe that every child needs to have
At least
some boundaries to work with. Needs a corridor.
Yes.
The question is how wide the corridor, how narrow, but everyone needs a corridor.
Let me be honest with you, right? That corridor was destroyed because of my kept buying on each corridor everywhere, straight. In that, I'll tell you, I'll be very honest with you. If any of you had a child like me, probably wish you had no child. Because I'll give you a scenario. One day I just woke up one day and I thought I should go swimming. We had no swimming pool at home, so I was like, no, but we have water tanks. They're repairing the tank, so let's set it up. So I fill the water tank. Next thing you know, I'm saying, but I have one brother, so I was like, I don't come. I undressed my kid, bro. So we're going swimming. Dipped him in the water tank. Now, because I was short, I couldn't really seal it up. So I just fidgeted around, and the guy was drowning from inside, actually. So I push. Now immediately, my father is driving in. Now, what kind? And now, when I push the water tank, it's like, a child is playing. Next thing he sees a kid crawling out. Now you tell me how what would you expect? You expect him to send me to the naughty corner? Expect me to what they call this? Take away I had no phone. Yeah.
Your privileges.
With video games. Okay, at the time I grew up, okay, people were playing video games that I was a child who loved to play outside, loved to adventure. So what would you? Next thing you know, hey, as in they tell you to go to the tree and pick out the best.
But do you think that was a good thing?
I'm telling you, that was the best thing. I'm being very honest with you.
Yeah.
I see how my sister raises her children. The child makes a mistake and she's negotiating. As they have made a mistake, it's a negotiation because, of course, rights, what? The child will report you to police, what? She even tells us that I'd never say no. Or say, maybe, no, we can't. And you see, you find that you yourself, as an uncle, you can't even.
You can't be the bad guy.
You can't even discipline the child because when you say no, you're the one in the wrong now.
But I'll tell you what, I beg to differ with you from one thing just before I get to you, Banji.
No problem.
I think generally as elders, we have a responsibility where raising kids is concerned. I'll tell you, there was once upon a time my nephew was, by then he was like roughly around 6 years old, and he came to stay with me for the holidays, and my sister-in-law gave me a whole rundown of foods that he doesn't eat and all that, and I clearly took the paper and wrapped it up and told her, please go back with it because he's now in my care. Okay.
He's going to eat.
Yes, and he'll eat what I give him. And the fact that you've trusted me with him means that you should also trust what he's going to eat. And when she left, he came and sat next to me and tried to negotiate. And he started telling me about he doesn't like beans and all those things. I told him it doesn't matter what you don't like and what you like, but you're going to eat because I can't give you food that's not good for you. Do you know, after 1 month, that boy, he was a very bad eater, because also one of the things that we have at home is you will finish your food because that's just the way it is. It's not a negotiation. You've talked about negotiation. I don't believe in negotiating with children because they're children. They're not old enough to make their decision. And as an adult, I think we have a responsibility of doing that. So the boy put on a lot of weight, and my sister-in-law was very shocked when even she saw pictures of the guy wolfing the beans and his posho and all those things. So I think the corridor and also being strict, even when you're not the parent, is very important.
Now, I was going to, could you have clarified? You see, you've given the African context. Now, this is the person, this is a child who has been brought up by a white man. Whereby, by the way, I'll be very honest with you, it's the first time I was hearing this thing that if you say no to a child, you've made the mistake. It's you who is the criminal. And you see, that's another thing maybe we shall point out, that the mere fact that we do not actually discipline our children in an African context, we try to copy and paste different ideas from books, from movies and all. The mere fact that we do not actually contextualize this entire disciplinary thing, and we try, being honest with you, when I had this, I was so blown away. But the fact is, that corridor, strict in Africa, if you're not strict with an African, hey.
No, but you know, guys, and I know Banji is going to weigh in on this, but Peter, you've said that you don't believe in negotiating with children. And I don't think this is the first time you've said that on this show. And this is not going to be the first time I disagree with you. Even on that matter. You know, we have a dilemma. We are torn between raising a child to be as straight as an arrow, to be like, you know, you have cowpeas on a factory line. They are all green, and then you punch them with that black dot at the top so that they all come out the same way. You have that different from how do you raise a child based on the way they are wired, but raise them well. Okay? Because we have different personalities. in every family there are people like Albert who must be beaten
Yeah.
for them to hear any sense.
Clobbered.
But then in that same family, you're going to find a sibling who is so fearful of Chiboko. For them, as soon as they hear an instruction, they say, yes, ma'am, yes, dad. And they follow. So if you say that you're applying Chiboko the whole way, why are you beating this one who you tell was? And they align. So you're going to find that the methods of alignment or discipline are different. There are going to be kids who are not querying you because they are insolent. They are querying because they want to understand. Yeah, and I so happen to have been one of those. I needed to understand why. So, because I kept on asking questions, so in some, especially at school, there are teachers who loved me, and then I would get into another grade where there's a certain teacher, whether I was in that year, I was first, second, or third. But every term, the guy would write, he has done well, but he is stubborn and proud. So after second term, my mom came in third term. She says, sir,
What exactly is the problem?
please explain to me. My son is one of your best students, correct? Yes, 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 madam. But when you say he's stubborn and proud, what does that mean? It's because I questioned everything. I questioned English principles, I questioned math, I questioned science because I wanted to understand. And all I was saying is, why? But when I checked, so they taught us about how you make a magnet. You get a nail or something, put a wire, copper wire, put it in power, after a while it becomes a magnet. I went home.
And
I
tried.
got a nail, a 6-inch nail, I put a copper wire on it, I put it in the power,
And
it
boom.
short-circuited the whole system and threw me away. I went back to school, I said,
This
Mr.
thing
Mike,
doesn't
this
work."
thing does not work. because I'm an experiential learner.
Yeah.
Now, if you beat me up, you're not disciplining me. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that sometimes we should not be, most times, we should not apply blanket methodology of discipline. But learn, in fact, this is how the Bible says, it says, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he grows up, he will not depart from it.
the way.
There's actually a version that says, train up a child according to their bend, according to their leaning of personality. And when they grow up, they'll not depart from it. In other words, how I deal with an Albert who is going to drown his brother is different from how I deal with a professor,
Yeah.
different from how I deal with a sharp, quick Peter, different from how I deal with a questioning Chris.
Yeah.
According to their bend, you discipline them according to their bend. So you get to know the child first, how they are wired, then you know what to apply. This one, Chiboko, for sure. But one who fears them, why do you beat them?
I'll talk about-
I'll tell you
let
what,
him go.
Banji, I need to hear from you just before we go into the break. Now, according to Chris, one size does not fit all. Should there be a blanket law? Like, for example, in the house, I remember, I'll give you my scenario. When my dad would come home, he hated noise in the house. You don't, and that was his rule. It doesn't matter whether you're the sharp one, you're the slow one. It was a rule in the house. No making noise in the house. So should we have those blanket rules? You cannot wear a hat in the house. It didn't matter. And that was it. And we could even ask why. I mean, even nowadays, when I go to a restaurant and I'm wearing a cap, I just take it off because you never know.
Your dad
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think families are different, and I'm not so sure whether I'm correct, but I would assume that at Chris's dining table, you don't touch the food before you say a prayer.
Yeah.
Probably if the child is hungry and they rushed and touched the food, they would be asked to make a prayer to correct their mistake.
I like the word you used, assume.
I would assume.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Let's leave it at that.
yes. Now, I happen to have grown up in a rural setting. I'm not like maybe most of you. Now, the rural setting, and my father gave us liberty, but he gave us also a corridor, Albert's corridor. But in that corridor, we had liberty. So, you know, if it is a day for school, between 8 and 5, you're expected to be in school. Okay? you can do whatever you want at school, but you have to be in school anyway.
Yeah.
Okay? You know, for instance, that supper is served at 7 before darkness, because in the village there is no electricity. So you must eat before darkness. And if you are not home and you didn't tell the family where you have gone, they will not keep for you food. So you find that we keep looking at the sun. When it's about to set, we are all running. We are making a line toward his home. And Mzee would be the one who would tell you that you have committed this mistake. I am forgiving you. The day I beat you, my son, you will not go to school for a week. And if he touched on you, you know that week there is no going to school. So
Out of that sheer damage in your body.
yes, out of the sheer damage. So now, I think that there shouldn't be like a fixed formula for disciplining. Okay? And sometimes with children, I am going to use a very controversial concept. There is no negotiation, but you can negotiate within. And that's why I'm saying I'm contradicting myself. If you allow so much negotiation, then you give liberty for children to bend you together with the rules. But they be knowing that, well, I can negotiate and say there is church service. I am waking up, it's very cold. There is mass. For us Catholics who have several, like in Kampala, there's one of 8, there's one of 10, there's one.
11,
Daddy, please let me go for the one of 10. If they are a little bit old and the church is near, probably you should have that kind of liberty. But the whole point should be
You must go.
Yes, you must
choose
go.
which one.
No.
Don't worry now, we do need to go into break. I also have a divergent view where that is concerned. Now we're here at the Nakuru Skies Hotel talking about discipline with our children. Are we raising a nation of brats, or are we just simply adjusting to the times? Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back from the break. In case you've just joined us, we're here at the Nakuru Skies Hotel talking about discipline and children. This is your show. We want to hear from you. Let's have a live chat on Twitter. Our handles are right there on your screen, or you can hit us up on Facebook. Now, before Albert eats you alive, okay. You know, discipline is a very double-edged sword, and I'll tell you why. Both of you guys seem to believe in negotiation, but my question is that one of the reasons why we are literally facing some of the challenges we're facing in this country nowadays? When you look at the workplace, a lot of the younger guys who are growing up want to negotiate with everything. Where there's order, there's progress. That's just the way it is. And I think, and this is just my view, in Uganda I think we negotiate a bit too much about everything. Okay, the law is the law, let's follow it.
Peter, Uganda's problems have nothing to do with negotiating parents. Uganda's problems have everything to do with the model of leadership we have had for the last so many decades. Okay, and I'm not getting political. I am just saying, saying that when, for example, a child gets to see that someone can stand for Member of Parliament, use money to get the seat, they're going to use the same method to become head prefect in primary school.
Yes, we're seeing
that has nothing to do with whether they negotiate with their parent or not.
No, but it's the parent. Discipline.
No.
I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you where I'm coming from.
It's very different. You can listen, Peter. I am very adamant on this because I have seen people who are beaten like Albert. Huh?
Yeah.
Where there is no negotiation, the corridor is as small as your shoulders. But the guy gets out, and when he's at school, he is behaving like the child you think is coming from a negotiating parent. So what I want to say is this. We have different spaces that we operate in. It takes a village to raise a child. People behave differently in different spaces, and there's sometimes no consistency in the character of the person. That's why it's, in my view, very important to first of all look at who are you dealing with, so you are actually shaping character and not necessarily creating a certain environment, because it's possible for me to act different here. We know this. You are in church, you find a person in church, they behave differently from when they're in the bar, different from when they're at work, different from when they're in a taxi, different from when they are with their friends. Why? Because it was a thing of, this is how you behave. So someone is wild. One night they are like as wild as the wild oats. Then on Sunday, they show up and they are as holy as Mother Mary.
As the
And you're like,
Virgin
who is
Mary.
this we're talking to?
Yes, and I think Chris there has a point, because when we are disciplining, I think there has to be an objective. Okay, why are we disciplining this child? And many times as parents, we discipline children without first explaining. You are administering, I'm not saying the punishment is in terms of beating, but you are administering discipline, and probably the child doesn't know that what they have done is wrong.
But sorry to interject, but don't you remember when some of us were young, you'd get an explanation, and every word would be a chiboko.
And you see, okay, I agree. Okay, sorry.
So now there is a tendency for us to do as our parents did.
If you grew up in a reign of terror,
Yes.
transfer it to the
Yes.
next
But
generation.
no. I think we should be slightly better than our parents. And for me, I say, I have always liked this Chinese proverb that a master becomes a master when his students surpass him. So a parent becomes a parent when his children become better than him, and the grandchildren become super. So I think we can modify how we were disciplined, and we can make it better. Yes, I remember that was the formula, my friend. You came late. Why did you come late? But I have not been given an opportunity to.
That's the question.
Yes, you are giving me a question alongside a cane. Okay, and so you would find that the explanation, you don't hear the explanation because there is fire.
Sometimes the explanation has to come after the fire.
After the fire. So because the overall purpose of the discipline of the boy or the girl is such that they, first of all, they understand that they made a mistake, or what they did is not acceptable in the family, and then so that they can learn how to avoid it, how to do better. So that's why explanation comes, and that's why I said there can be negotiation within rigidity. You will go to church, you will go to school. Okay?
When you feel
No.
like you go to school,
Let
when
me
you
now
feel like-
interject this, this gentleman. Let me tell you something. The more you allow, the more you allow those negotiations, that's when you start to lose control. Not you as you, but you lose control of the person you're trying to groom. And me, this is what I keep saying. This is what I'm trying to tell you. My father would say, there's a saying, a family that prays together stays together.
yeah.
What you see, when you keep when you allow negotiation today, then you expect your child to have a dilute understanding of negotiation. Now, generations to come, people are not going to be going to church. My father said, we are going to church at 10. You must be ready by 9.
Yeah.
That was it. There was no other mass.
Yeah.
So what is he trying to tell you? When you grow up and have your kids, make sure you come with them. My siblings are looking for God. That is the objective, the main goal. The objectives could be different, but the main goal is searching for God. Much as they made my father's system seem not to be effective, but at least he got out the first son in that line. Now imagine if all the children, everyone was just grouping the youth. But you see, what he tried to tell us, even when my sisters who also got diluted, when it's time for church, when they're at home, when it's time for church, when they see Albert, they know 9. They have to get their children ready, or else it's time for Chiboko. As in, it's time to wake people's minds. What is trying to, as in that line, it's important to have that line, in that when a tree decides to bend, they don't fall, they don't collapse.
Albert, let me tell you, you know, a tragedy we have. Now that we're speaking church, just allow me as a little, you know, inroad in that. You know how it is when they say that most pastors' kids are rogue, right? Most of the, and it's not necessarily true, but you generally see that most pastors' kids tend to veer off the line of their parents. Why? Because most pastors do that thing of, we are going to church, you are going to pray. If it's an overnight, you all must go.
You will read the Bible.
So what happens is, you must read the Bible from cover to cover in a month. You must. So, but this is a child, and you're not even stopping to think or ask me, do I enjoy these things that you like? I was just born in a family where you like your church things. You have not asked me whether I should participate or not. You're not even telling me why, like
why?
you said.
Yes.
So then you find that while I am small and beatable, I am going to toe the line. The day I grow big enough, where when you pull up the whip, I say, boss, Chichi.
Yeah, you said.
From that day, I am going to go look for everything you do not do. If you take tea, I will take weed. If you, you know, because someone is rebelling against an oppression that was called discipline, right?
But
So for me,
discipline is not an oppression.
I'm telling you. So for me, I know an oppression dubbed discipline, and yet it really isn't. So for me, that's why I am insistent in this. That create boundaries and tell people why. Explain why do we do what we do. But then within those boundaries, there's a time, I mean, I'm in church leadership. Everyone who knows me knows that. And then one time our son, Lemmy, said, Dad, is it possible that we can at least have one Sunday when we don't go to church? Like, don't go. Must we keep going? And we had, my wife and I had this thing, we're like, oh, man, the guy is being pushed too hard. So one Sunday, we woke up and we said we are not going. He's like, what, are you serious? Like, yeah, you remember when you said we shouldn't go? To this Sunday we are not going. He couldn't believe it. He walked around, he waited to see if we're going to change our minds, and we didn't. And we actually didn't go. So what did that do? It made him actually start developing a love for what we're doing, because he knows he has an option. He can opt out if he wants to. It's not a must do. So I'm using that example to say, it's important to create boundaries and say, look, there is a reason why we do these things. Please say please. Because when you ask nicely, people give you easier than when you say, give me.
Yes, and Chris, I first pause there. Discipline has very little to do with logic. It has much to do with the heart.
Thank you.
The best way to win the heart is through politeness, through soft weapons. You know, people can demonstrate on the street and you bring all the tear gas in the world.
They will not go.
You ask Egypt, what happened? They brought all the tear gas and then the police said we can't shoot anymore because these are our cousins. So you will bring tear gas in your house and the children will say, bring it. We are not going anywhere. Now, it's good that most of us here have been in Kampala for some time. We have known, for instance, university students for having notorious students. These are students, some of them from nursery school. They are in boarding schools where the rules are very specific. They just peep through the holes in the windows to check what is outside. Most universities don't have gates. So when they come here, they say, Hallelujah. They have left the father in Muyenga, they are now in Makerere. They have left the father in Mparara, they are now in Champogo. They have left the father in Arua, they are now at Kampala International University. They become wild. The essence of disciplining while giving some freedom is that you are giving the person the tools to assess the behavior that they're about to engage in and say, is this appropriate? Is this profitable? Is this acceptable? Is this the way I'm supposed to conduct myself? So that they have self-control.
But I ask,
Okay, just before that, we do need to go into a break, and we're going to come back straight to you. Now, we are here at the Nakuru Skies Hotel talking about the issue of discipline, which clearly is a very thorny issue.
You'll go first.
No, no.
We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back from the break. In case you've just joined us, we are here at the Nakuru Skies Hotel talking about discipline and children. Is the fabric of our society starting to disintegrate? Well,
No,
gentlemen can tell us.
Before you go there,
Yeah.
I want to first come back here.